You know, when you hear that song, it can only mean one thing on what she said, that Christine Bentley and me, Sharon Caddy, are joined by Uncle Geek himself, Chris Abel. Welcome back.
Hey, it's great to be here, as always.
This is always our taste treat for the week. You know, all that wonderful stuff that I then drive home and think about.
Well, yeah.
That's good, yeah.
Well, you've kind of awakened this whole, like, you know, I got to be honest. Sometimes the whole technology thing kind of freaks me out a little bit because I feel like I don't get it. But then I talk to you and I'm like, I totally get this.
Good.
Yeah. So we're starting off with a stalker app.
Yeah.
So tell us that story.
And I'm happy about this because on our program, I've got time to actually go through the complexity of this.
Okay.
Since apps emerged in the market, everyone I talk to at some point, all the shows usually sidle up and say, hey, is there an app I can use to monitor my kids or check my spouse? And I never have enough time to sort of say why that you shouldn't be pursuing that. So we're going to talk about that today. So yes, here's the basics. When it comes to the legality of tracking another person, it is illegal to do so unless you have that person's consent and unless they are knowledgeable about the fact that they are being tracked.
Even if it's a child.
Even if it's a child.
Huh. Really? I mean, if you wanted, for example, I've always thought that with my children I was so terrified that I wanted, the things that they have in pets that you can scan, that little rice thing?
Yeah.
Because if somebody ever took the child, some way of, so you're saying that if, I'm not sure about stalker apps. What would they do? Would the child have a phone that would track where they were, or how would that work?
Yeah, usually the approach when it comes to children or the elderly is that you're talking about a bracelet. Or you're talking about, I know in Japan they're coming out with special watches that do this. And the idea being that at least your kids are aware that they're wearing a watch, that they're being tracked. There's nothing wrong with tracking itself. It's just doing so without a person knowing that they're being tracked.
Okay, so Chris, let's ask this question. Let's say you have a 5-year-old and you've got a bracelet on the 5-year-old because the 5-year-old is known to wander off or not go to get on the school bus or, forget where she is or he is and start playing with somebody and forget that mom's coming to pick him up. That's illegal to have a bracelet on that 5-year-old?
No, it's not illegal in terms of the bracelet because the 5-year-old at least understands that there's something physically around their wrist.
Okay, so what's illegal?
Well, the illegal part is, and it's the concern here isn't so much children and the elderly, it's people doing this with their romantic partners.
Their spouses
and stuff like that.
So other adults who are non-consenting.
Right, and what you can see that in practice, if you download Twitter or Facebook to your phone, before it will run, there's actually a little message that appears on the screen that says, this app would like to use your location. Is that okay? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So that's the sort of the guidelines in terms of using this technology for good rather than for bad. Now, those are sort of the known quantities out there. Companies like Apple, Google, what they do is they limit their tracking products to things very specifically. You've lost your phone. Here's your ability to find your phone and then get it back. But outside of that, there exists a very shady gray market that does try to cater towards people who do want to kind of spy on their spouse. It's tempting. You have all sorts of doubts and anxieties. And these apps go well beyond the pale.
I've seen ads for stuff like this.
Correct, yes. And if you install it onto a phone, what it does is not just track the location of that phone, but actually listen in and record conversations, get a copy of every text message.
Track deleted messages. Yeah.
So
get copies of photos.
You would install. Let me see how this works because I'm dumb. So I would install this app on my phone, and it would then tap into somebody else's phone, or I would, unbeknownst to them, install that app on their phone.
So here's the most common scenario that's happening with these apps, and we know this because even the companies who make them have been bragging how the majority of people who buy them are men and tend to be jealous men or controlling men trying to do this. And what they do is they get a hold of their girlfriend's phone when she's not looking. 5 minutes she's in the bathroom, whatever.
Take the SIM card.
Correct. And, well, not the SIM card.
No?
So what they're doing is they sign up to a website and pay between $100 to $200 a year for a subscription service. And what that website does is it gives them a link that they can send to themselves in an email. So they get on their girlfriend's phone, they access their email, they get that link, they click that link, and that surreptitiously installs software onto that phone, which then hides in the background. There's no way to know that it's there, and it's making copies of everything and using that phone's internet access to send it to your account. Then you can sign in either using your phone or your computer and see and monitor all of this activity.
So it monitors phone calls and emails and locations
Pictures
and everything
and beyond that. So what has happened up until now, there's been nothing to really stop this practice. And a lot of activists for domestic violence have been really upset about this because there have been lots of reports of women going missing. And it turns out that their jealous boyfriends have been using this kind of software to track their location. So the FBI last week and the Department of Justice in the U.S. have filed their first indictment of one of the app makers. There's a particular app called Stealth Genie that was the most popular of them all. And most popular because you could actually set up what's called geofencing, which means that you can go onto a map and choose parts of, say, your city and have the phone report any time that person enters that part of the city. You get a text message that say, hey, this person's in the neighborhood of that other guy, or something like that. And so this is considered very egregious, and so the first indictment has been sent to the courts. Stealth Genie was immediately silenced over the weekend. Their website is now down. A lot of people have been using the service going, hey, how come I can't track my girlfriend anymore?
Wow.
And this is going to be tested in the courts. It's not a slam dunk yet because the technology itself is not illegal. It's the use of it. And these companies have been sort of skating around it by saying, we don't tell our customers to use it for this purpose. They use it this purpose. It's up to you. You have to go after our customers rather than go after us.
So it's sort of like the whole murky debate of music.
Correct, like file sharing.
File sharing. So it's going to it could be lost on a technicality.
That's correct. Although in this case, these companies are so have been so rampant and irresponsible in the terms of how they've been marketing their material. There's sufficient evidence there that says that these guys know what they're doing. The big key is that when they design these apps, that they design them so that they're not detected. That once you install it on an app, there's no sign or hint that it's there, and they say that points to intent. That points to the fact that they're making the software specifically for the purpose of one person using it to spy on another
That's scary.
person.
Well, also, there must be something illegal. If I own the phone, it's my phone, I pay the bill, you install something on my phone, and I don't care if it's to spy on me or anything else. You have no business touching my property and altering my property in any way.
Right.
I mean, I'd sue somebody if they cut my hair. I didn't want it cut. You know, I mean, I'm just saying. I actually wouldn't sue them, but I'm just saying it's the same idea that it's my phone.
Altering your property.
Well, and the other issue for me in terms of, I mean, there are people who've gotten into debates with me saying that there are justifiable reasons why they may want to do this. And so the other point that I would put across to anybody who's thinking about this kind of stuff is that how do you trust these companies? Because it's not the big brands that are doing it, it's a shady kind of smaller company. So in this case, Stealth Genie was created by a man who lives in Pakistan. His name's Hama Akbar, but his company is registered in the United Kingdom, and the Stealth Genie service is actually run from computers in the United States. And keep in mind that although you know that you're monitoring this other person's phone, there's nothing stopping from the company from monitoring that information as well,
And
because it
that's
has to be
scary,
fed through
too.
their computers.
So I would imagine, can this also be installed on a computer?
Yeah, there are also versions of that where it can be installed in computer.
So this would be a
keylogger versions of that.
situation even where, for example, it could get really ugly in, let's say, a divorce situation, where then you're using stuff. I mean, do courts even do they even use that stuff as evidence?
I'm not sure. I would imagine that it can be admissible, of course, if you have material. Emails have been, so why not? I guess the issue, of course, is that if it's illegal to spy on somebody else, then you're not going to include that material in your court case for a divorce.
Well, I'm glad that you brought this up because this is scary stuff, and we'll be watching this. Any idea when this is going to come up in court?
So the indictment was just filed last week, and of course these things take time to be able to process. The good news was the immediate reaction was that the Stealth Genie website went down, and many people who are using it have reported that suddenly they're no longer capable of being able to spy on their significant others. And that's going to have a rippling effect towards other companies that also make their own version of this software. Everybody's going to be shutting things down. There will still be that software out there, but it's going to be a while. And this will test the parameters of how the law can handle this kind of technology. So it's not just specific to these apps, but as we move forward and we come up with other tracking devices, it'll have an impact there as well.
Wow.
Mm.
Well, that's some pretty serious stuff. We got some fun stuff coming up.
Yes.
So stick around after the break. All kinds of cool stuff with Chris Abel, including quilting for monkeys. I'm not kidding. That's all coming up when we continue on What She Said, Sirius XM Canada Talk.